So, hopefully after a successful lobby day here in DC, you're inspired to host your own lobby day. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes leading up to what we did yesterday. And so this is just to kind of give you an idea of what the process is and give you some ideas. So if you want to host your own lobby day in 2015, you have an idea of what goes into it and how to get started. So 6 to 8 months out, so roughly around now, you start figuring out, do you want to host a lobby day? So it's a little late in 2014 to host a lobby day. A lot of the legislatures are out of session. There are about 12 to 14 that are still in session right now.
Can I just interrupt
Yeah.
and ask, is this presentation on your website?
No. We worked it up for this workshop. We can get it on the website. We're trying to figure out the best way to get, actually there's the, Kelsey Jo, can you get the handouts for the state workshop?
Where are they?
With the rest.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Also, what I can do is leave a mailing list just for lobby day participants. I can send this out in a file.
Yeah. Yeah, we worked this up just for you guys because we were trying to figure out a way where we could give attendees tools to take back with them, because we didn't want the knowledge of what you've done to kind of get lost after the event, so we're trying to pay it forward a little. So like I was saying, 2014, not a whole lot of legislatures are in session right now, and most of them are starting to wind down because for most states other than Virginia, New Jersey, and maybe one or two more, this is an election year for them, and so most of the legislators are focused on their campaigns, their primaries, making sure they get elected to the next session. So 6 to 8 months out, you want to review your lobby laws. You should be fine if you're lobbying under the Secular Coalition for your state banner. But double check, because states do update their lobby laws depending on what current corruption scandal is sweeping through their legislature. So if you look at California, for example, several of their state senators are under indictment for corruption right now, and it's causing some revision in their ethics laws. So just make sure, like I said, you should be fine, but double check before you commit any misdemeanors or felonies. I don't think we provide bail money. You want to select a date, and this is a really important part. You want to make sure that it's when the legislature is in session. So your state legislative website should have legislative start dates and legislative end dates for the next session. And if not, or if you can't find it, please email me. I have a nifty website somewhere that tells me all the dates for all the states, so I can get you that information. You want to make sure that it's early enough in the session where you have issues to work on, the issues you want to work on are still in play, because a lot of times at the beginning of the session, that's when they introduce all the new bills, and then the rest of the session, while new bills are still being introduced and debated, that's when the weeding out process goes. That's when the bills are assigned to committees, and that's when the hearings are held for committees. So you want to have it within the first few months, because a lot of times that's when especially the big meaty issues are in play. So for example, a part-time legislature that maybe meets only in the spring, mid to late February is a really great time to hold it. So for example, our Texas chapter is currently partnering with some other organizations to plan their own lobby day, and so they're trying to make sure they choose the right date, because Texas only meets every other year, and so they need to make sure that the legislature is in session, make sure that folks are going to be around in order for their lobbying to have an impact. This is really unfeasible for a lot of folks just because of the realities of the work week. But in terms of what day of the week, midweek is ideal, because that's when the legislators are in their offices, that's when they're doing work. Again, realities of the work week, that's probably not going to be accessible or feasible for most folks. So don't do Fridays. Fridays are when legislators tend not to be in the office. They like to go home to their districts. They like to see their families. They like to work in their district offices, and so their staff might be around, but even then, if you want a chance to possibly meet with the legislator, like some of our participants yesterday were able to, you want to have it either Tuesday or Thursday would probably be a better bet. So I know I just said mid-February can be the best time to host a lobby day. I'm about to contradict myself. You want to also try and find good weather, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of walking. So it's kind of the playoff. You want to make sure it's early enough, but also make sure that, especially in certain states, your participants aren't being faced with a major blizzard. So keep that in mind when you're selecting the date for your lobby day. You want to figure out what expenses there are going to be. You want to start figuring out a budget. How much is a space going to cost? How much are you going to charge folks to try and recoup some of the costs? What type of things are you going to offer? You want to try and make sure that it's not the same weekend as another major convention. So if in terms of free thought, if there's a rally, like the Reason Rally or Free Thought Day in October, you might want to partner with that type of celebration. But if there's a large convention in town, so let's say the American Cancer Association is having a large convention here in DC, that's probably not the best time to plan your own convention or your own lobby day, because there's going to be a lot of people in town. Hotels are going to be booked up wicked fast. So you want to try and look at the calendar, look at what type of things are being held in your city that weekend. You want to start drafting a preliminary event schedule and figure out if you want to do more of a 1 day or a 2 day. So the difference is with the 1 day, that's what we did yesterday. The 1 day is where we give you we do the lobby training in the morning. We invite speakers in the morning, and then the afternoon is the lobbying. 2 day, it's more spread out. So you might have a longer, more intensive training the first day, and then the second day is dedicated just to lobbying with an extended debrief session. So figure out what's in your best capabilities, what you can afford, what your participants might find most beneficial before deciding. You want to secure a space. So, develop a list of dream keynote speakers. So let's say you really want Elizabeth Warren or Neil deGrasse Tyson or Uncle Joe. That's your dream list of speakers. You start trying to figure out who you talk to get in touch with them. So again, if you can score one of those people, like if we could have scored Elizabeth Warren, man, I would have been so excited. So start figuring out, because you do want to have a keynote speaker, someone to be a draw for folks, or if possible, see if you can get a state legislator to speak, because like we had our Senator Whitehouse and Representatives Scott Holt and Lofgren. So you want to see if you can get someone to speak at your event. Next is to secure a space. So proximity is really important. So, for example, we're just a few blocks from Capitol Hill. You want to try and, I would say a few blocks is the most you want to be away from the Capitol, because it's easier for folks just to walk to their meetings instead of trying to figure out who's transporting who, what the deal is with parking, are you getting reimbursed for parking, that type of thing. So proximity, see if there are free meeting spaces, public libraries, community centers. If not, most of the time you can negotiate with hotels to secure a room, and that will include room nights where you guarantee a certain number of filled rooms. Any questions about this slide before I move on? Yes?
Keynote speakers, are they often paid or?
No. Especially for legislators, don't offer to pay them. You run into pesky ethics rules again, and we don't provide bail money.
Okay, so I will say that this is a much higher level than I'm interested in. I'm interested in, maybe not doing a lobby day so much, as having a lobby event which maybe we just lobby our local, people or one senator. So, this is really organizing stuff, but I'm more interested in how do you interact with their offices, what levels of legislators can you lobby with, can you go with, we have county supervisors, can you lobby those,
Yeah, you can, you can set up meetings with them. Unfortunately, this is kind of a state lobby day, so you can, use the tools that we've given you in terms of this is how you make an appointment, this is how you create an info sheet. You can do that with your own county executives and your state, and this is mainly talking about state level legislators. So, you can adapt them so it's more applicable. But this is for organizations on our chapters to give them the tools to plan their own with help from us.
And I'm saying, that's the high end of what I think the range of what people might do. So I'm just
this is adaptable. This is just kind of the basic framework. You can change it up as needed.
Right. So I guess I was just asking. I don't know which levels of representatives are lobbyable. So I didn't know if county executives are.
Lobbyable.
Any elected official.
Works for us, right?
Yeah.
So can you lobby your governor? Can you lobby?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because I haven't seen anything about lobbying the governor.
It's just less common because he's executive and they don't make the laws.
Yeah, and not only that, but
Can you lobby a mayor?
yes.
Okay, so I didn't know that. I'm
City
just
council.
asking. City
Yeah.
council, okay.
So, any more questions? I'm going to start because I think I spent a lot of time on this. So I'm going to start trying to make sure that we're done by 3:45 so Kelly doesn't come in and kick us out. All right, 4 months out, this is when you want to start developing your initial marketing material. So this is flyers, start figuring out what your social media strategy is. One of the things we offer our state chapters are state websites and Facebook pages. So we can work with you there. We also recommend, if you're part of any other groups, seeing if they'll allow you to make posts on their group page, or if they'll do it for you because of the way Facebook prioritizes what posts get seen on group pages. So start developing the initial marketing materials, start figuring out what type of language you want to use, what your brand, or how you want to create the flyers and distribute them. You also want to start working on 300 to 500 word descriptions to put in community newsletters. See if your local newspapers will let you put in media alerts, or see if they'll do a special feature. A lot of local papers are really open to community involvement. So if you're in with your local paper editor or someone who works on the staff, see if they're willing to write a feature about it to start spreading the word. Or they'll have community calendar. See if you can get on the community calendar. This is when you want to set up your online registration. So Google Forms is your friend. It's simple, really easy to use. If you're charging money, I would recommend Eventbrite. That is a really straightforward system. You can charge however much you feel you need to recoup costs, or at least not end up in a very large hole afterwards. So in terms of registration, go to google.com. If you have a Gmail, that's fine. If you don't, you need to create one in order to use it, or find someone who has a Gmail you can use. If you go to Google Drive, you can create a form. The things you really want to make sure you include on the form, other than name, email address, zip address, so we can figure out who your representatives are dietary restrictions. If someone is super, super allergic to peanuts, don't have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. If they've lobbied before, so you can use them as a resource when you're doing your training, so they can speak to what they've done before, maybe give examples. See if there's a specific issue they want to lobby on. So what we did this year was we asked what issues do you want to lobby on, so we could figure out what people were most passionate about. And so you want to figure out what folks are interested in talking about, because that's going to create for a better lobby visit instead of just, oh, so we're talking about vouchers today. Yeah, vouchers. You want to give them something they're passionate about. Open registration, send out emails, post on Facebook, Twitter, let your local groups know. Your local groups are probably your greatest resource in terms of getting folks to register for your lobby day. If you know of anyone in other local groups, meetup groups, any community connections you have, utilize those to get folks interested in registering. Any questions? Yes.
So for adapting, say, the sheet that, that has your ask on it at the bottom, does SCA have like a repository of position papers?
We do have some of them. We can work with you to adapt them to make them Rhode Island specific. I was recently doing that with North Carolina. They were meeting with representatives on, I want to say it was a very, very bad voucher bill that they were meeting with representatives about. So we can, work with you. I assume you guys have all the data, but work with you, give you the template for it so you can modify it and see how we've written it up and then make it your own.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Any more questions? All right. So also send out special invites to VIPs, donors, and local leaders. You want to make them feel special. You want to coddle them. So send a personalized invite to them if you want them to attend. 3 months out, you want to start sending regular registration reminders. Not enough where people start getting annoyed and tuning them out, but update social media. If you secure a really fantastic speaker, let them know. If you're going to be hosting an open bar reception, let folks know. That makes folks interested in attending. Start working on marketing and sending that out to your member organizations, making sure that folks outside of your immediate planning circle know about it. You want to start preparing a spreadsheet for meetings. So you want to figure out who's being registered, what districts they're in, who their representatives are. So you can start figuring out, okay, these are the offices I need to talk to. You can start making preliminary group assignments. So let's say, okay, these 3 people are in District 1 and this person is in District 2. Let's make sure that all the District 1 folks are together, or maybe put 2 of the District 1 folks together and put someone from District 3 with them, so they're not just having this meeting with this one person, they're meeting with another office as well. Yes?
Okay, so if you're calling up to make appointments with representatives or the representative's office, can you expect 100% that they are going to make a meeting with you?
No.
That's what I thought.
So for example, for our lobby day, we put in requests at various offices, doing our best to make sure that participants could meet with their constituents. Not all the offices got back to us. And that's just a reality. Sometimes they'll ignore you. You want to, I'm sure Kelly covered this yesterday in her lobby training, you want to offer them a variety of times, because that way it's harder for them to just immediately shut you down and say, oh no, I'm sorry, the representative is unavailable at this time. If up front you say, is it possible to meet with them at 1, 2:30, or 4? It's really unlikely that the representative or their staffer is going to be having something going on all those times. So you want to be seen as, you want to offer them some flexibility in terms of when you're scheduling the appointments.
But if you run into a situation where they won't make appointments with you, that's really unusual, or not?
I mean, sometimes they're just busy. Sometimes they just won't answer you.
I'm concerned if
they're not responding, then they're not responding. So
yeah.
Then you just shuffle people around. You want to make sure everyone is in at least 1 to 2 meetings. So you shuffle people around so you at least get folks hopefully meeting with one of their representatives. Yes.
how much information do you give about what you're trying to do when you make the appointment? Do you tell them who we are?
Yeah.
What we were talking to talk about?
Yes, because especially if there are staffers handling certain portfolios, you want to make sure you're meeting with the right staffer. For example, with our last lobby meeting, something happened where they took the wrong one of our participants was handed the wrong portfolio, and they were supposed to be meeting with someone on vouchers, and so the person who they were meeting with was the person with the education portfolio. The folder that our participant had was about climate change, and so the staffer couldn't really help them, couldn't really explain what the representative's position was. So you do want to make sure you're meeting with the correct staffer, and especially if there's someone in the capital city who's doing lobby visits as much as their schedule permits. If you're meeting with that staffer and you form a rapport with them, you can pass that on to the person who's doing most of the lobbying in his or her spare time, and they can start working that connection. So yeah, you want to start putting things together in a spreadsheet. Try and keep it organized. It won't stay organized for long, but try and keep it organized as long as possible. 2 months out, if you're still looking for a keynote speaker, expand your horizons. So move beyond your dream list, start seeing, okay, is there a member of a local coalition who shares some of our issues? Might they be interested in speaking? So for example, in South Carolina, we had kind of a strategy session. We had a representative from a local reproductive rights coalition that's very active in the state, and the woman who met with us is their lobbyist, and so she knew all about the ins and outs. Okay, this is the tricks I know. These are just kind of some legislative tricks that folks use when they want to hold up legislation. And so maybe see if you can get someone from one of those coalitions, a local ACLU, local Planned Parenthood, someone who understands some part of what we're doing and who might be able to provide insight into the state legislative process. So, like I said, right around 2 months out, start expanding your horizons and start figuring out who else you might be able to recruit as a keynote speaker. You also want to keep working on your social media marketing. Keep working on Facebook, keep working on Twitter, keep sending out registration reminders. Again, not so much people start tuning them out. I know that's what people tend to do if they keep getting like 5 emails a day from the Obama for America campaign. You want to update the lobby training PowerPoint, and this is something that we can provide you. So we kind of have, a general national lobbying PowerPoint that can be made state specific, because each state does have their own legislative quirks, and we want to make sure that what's being presented to the participants is relevant to them. So update the PowerPoint, make sure that it fits, make sure that you don't accidentally leave California when you're talking to South Carolina. That's not something you should do. Expand your meetings to committees and special requests. So I know yesterday some folks from Michigan were incredibly lucky and got to meet with representatives from the Armed Forces Committee. I think that's the name of the committee.
Yes, it is.
Okay, I could be getting it. Thank you. So see if you might be able to meet with representatives from certain committees that handle issues that are important to us. So see if you can meet with someone from the Education Committee, or if your state has a Science Committee, see if you can meet with them.
How can you find out what committees the state has?
It's listed on the state legislative websites.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, and so sometimes each state or each house or each chamber has their own quirky things. So some it's like health and human services, or some it's like health, education, and business. So the names don't always cross over for the committees, so keep an eye out on that. Any questions? Okay. 4 weeks out, so this goes into what Tony was asking earlier about preparing the lobby sheet. So this is an example of the voucher info sheet or lobby sheet that we gave to the folks who were lobbying on vouchers. So there's a difference between I'm sure, I'm sure Kelly covered this, info sheets and lobby sheets. And so you can prepare both of them. We'll provide you guys with the templates. Make sure that when you're doing this, that your chapter logo is there instead of the Secular Coalition for America logo, and representing secular North Carolinians, Californians, Rhode Islanders. Make sure it speaks to your state so that the people that you're meeting with understand that it's state constituents who are doing this and not just kind of generic national organization that's lobbying them. You want to start ordering materials, and again, this is something we can help you out with. Part of our aim is to support support chapters and make sure that they have the resources necessary in order to lobby, in order to do what they need to do. So talk to us. FedEx we can order online at FedEx and make sure you guys get the materials at the nearest possible FedEx store. So if you're planning a lobby day, let us know and we can help you out with the printing of materials. Send out reminder emails to the VIPs, and if you've negotiated a room rate with a hotel as part of a deal to get the conference space for a discount, the room rates tend to expire before a certain period of time. So for our national one, our room rate expired middle of May. So we were sending out reminders to folks to make sure they registered before the room rates increased, so they got our special discount. So that's an incentive to get folks to register before a certain time. Start doing a countdown. This is 2 to 3 weeks out. Start doing a countdown saying 1 week left to register, 2 weeks left to register, that type of thing. You want to start adding registrants to other meetings, so hopefully they have 2 to 3 meetings. So I know, for example, Wally, you were meeting with Representative Sanford. Even though you're not from South Carolina, you were in that meeting. So you want to make sure folks have a good amount of meetings to attend. So they don't need to be a constituent for every meeting, but every meeting should have a constituent in it. Make sense? Keep ordering printed materials and start scheduling time to stuff folders, to pack, because Kelsey Jo has been a saint and helped us with all the stuffing, all the packing, so she knows how long it can take. So make sure you plan time in for that. 1 week out, close registration. Yeah, I figure if you guys got far enough along in the PowerPoint without threatening me, you guys might like the image. So close registration. Sometimes, depending on if you get an unexpected speaker, you might be able to open registration for a few days more. We did that at points depending on if we had a last minute speaker added to our list. But for the most part, you want to close out registration because you need to give banquet event orders to the hotels. You need to make sure that you have a finalized registration list to have Hill meetings. You need to make sure that you have enough materials for everyone. So even if you order extra, you won't run out because 20 people showed up after registration closed and all of a sudden you don't have enough folders for them. Make sure you have all the tech necessary. So most hotels, if you're doing your lobby day at a hotel, most of them will have AV to rent. But make sure you have microphones. Make sure you have cameras if you want to record things. Make sure if you have persnickety computers like I do, you have the right tech to adapt them. So make sure you have all the tech, run through it at least once before your lobby day happens, because there's nothing worse than getting up and finding, oh wait, my computer doesn't actually show the PowerPoint. Order last minute printing too. If you aren't getting stuff professionally printed, start printing everything out 3 days before, because professionally printed stuff, you need to give them time to fulfill the order if you want it done well. Sometimes they can rush it, that normally costs extra. You want to stuff folders, send out a media alert, let the media know that this event is happening. Hopefully there might be a couple of reporters who show up. Get in touch with your local community paper. Again, they like this type of stuff. They like local constituent goes, or local person goes to Capitol to lobby. Day before, print the final list for registration, print the final meeting list so you can make sure that everyone is here, and print any last minute items. Lobby day, the day you're all working towards. Make sure folks are checked in so you know who's here, who's not, and what meetings you need to cancel. So if none of the participants showed, cancel those meetings. You don't want to leave this poor staffer hanging, waiting for someone who never shows. If the constituent is a no-show, it's your choice whether to cancel them. We tend to, like nationally, we tend to cancel them if there's no constituent, just because part of the experience we provide with these lobby days is giving people a chance to meet with their representatives or meet with their representative's office. And it kind of defeats the purpose if the person isn't there. If not everyone in a group showed up, add the lone participant to another group so they aren't all by themselves. You want to have people assigned to escort folks to the Capitol. You want to have people like Kelsey, Joe, or Zach, who is here to help out with tech, to help out with any problems that arise. You want to figure out all these staff assignments beforehand and have an itinerary for the folks so they know where they need to be at what time. And wrap up. So just because you have lobby day all over and done with doesn't mean your jobs are done quite yet. So you want to send thank you emails or cards to your speakers, panelists, VIPs, staffers, board, anyone who helped you in some way. Send them a personalized thank you. Especially the staffers, it will incline them more favorably to you in the future. People like getting thanks, you know? And then send a survey to all the participants. You want to use their feedback in order to craft a better lobby day for next year. So again, speaking more from our national perspective, this lobby day, we used a lot of the feedback we got from our survey last year to make sure that we were doing what folks enjoyed and cutting out things that folks didn't enjoy. So hopefully they have a more enjoyable experience. So that is it for me. Yes?
One question. In terms of setting the rates, if you don't know beforehand how many people are coming, how do you set the rates so that you don't have to? Our biggest problem is, if it's too high, you're going to turn people off. If it's too low, you have a deficit.
Yeah, so, for a lot of these events, they're not money-making events. Like, that's just honest truth. These events are for our constituents. They're to empower you guys. They're to get you involved, to see what we're doing here and kind of get a taste for it yourself, and hopefully have the meetings, have really successful meetings that plant the seeds for future meetings, follow-up meetings with Kelly, So that's kind of, again, what you want to aim for on a state level is you're planting the seed. These are to empower the local folks to start creating change. So again, we're here to provide, we can help you with the money. We can help you with fundraising to help cover costs. Because the chapters are part of our larger organization, we will work with you guys to sign the contracts for the hotels and work with them on negotiating rates and banquet orders and that type of thing. Tony?
2 questions. Does it matter whether or not the lobbyist you send is in the rep's district?
You can, or the general lobbyist?
The person from, the person from your group.
We like to have it that way just because when we make the meetings, we say there's going to be a constituent in the group. If the constituent doesn't show, sometimes you can explain, they got sick or they just didn't show. But other times we prefer just to cancel those meetings because it feels a little false pretense-y to have the meetings if we schedule them with a constituent and there is no constituent in the final group that heads over.
The other question was, is your C4 status our C4 status?
Yes. But again, just double check your lobbying laws before. I do have access to a nifty handbook with lobbying laws, so I can copy certain pages and email them to you. But our C4 status should cover you. I'm just going to take a couple more questions because we're running out of time. So,
I'll just mention there's a lot of state variation.
yeah.
A lot of this wouldn't work in my state, and I can point to 3 groups in the last 3 years that were successful.
What state were you?
This is Connecticut.
Okay.
You can't go to the legislatures on a lobby day because they aren't around half the time. And the people that have succeeded hired some lobbyists to go around to particular districts, have a meeting, get a bunch of constituents, and then go at the right senators and representatives, and then expand from there.
Yeah.
And with an army of constituents showing up with you have to schedule several weeks in advance because they aren't around that often.
Mm-hmm.
But that was very successful. We got the nation's first GMO law passed. This year we got the semi-fracking ban done in 1 year. They got killed the death penalty a couple of years ago, and we're coming close on death with dignity. But they're all kind of following that, not the big lobby day thing they're going on.
Yeah, and so
it depends on the state.
yeah, and so again, like I was talking, Lydia. Sorry, I can't quite read your name tag from here. I was telling Lydia this is more kind of general framework, but adapted to best suit your needs. That's what we want with these chapters. That's what we want with the materials that we give you, is for you to adapt them to work best for you, because it's not a one-size-fit-all. It's do what is most successful. We'll support you. We'll work with you to figure out what the shape of the organization or the shape of the lobby day is. But this is just general guidelines. Paula?
I have a question about going with other groups.
Mm-hmm.
Are they covered, and like if they're 501c3s and we're a 501c4, they're covered under, as part of our coalition?
Yeah, and so you just need to make sure they're wearing the, I am part of the Coalition of Reason in Seattle, or Seattle Atheists, but I'm lobbying as part of the Secular Coalition for, it's just making sure that the hat you're wearing is clear. Because what we don't want to happen is for some groups' 501c3 status to be jeopardized.
Right.
So the main thing we try and tell folks if they are lobbying and they are part of a 501c3 group is just to make sure that they're very explicit about they're there on behalf of the Secular Coalition for your state. All right, I think we are just out of time. So I'm going to be doing my best to try and get this on the state websites. If you want a copy, talk to Kelsey Joe. She's just going to be standing right there.
Yes, okay.
And we can pass it around folks' emails. You can also email me, Diana1n@secular.org. So yeah, that's it. No problem.